And in our top story today, I got a new hat. Oh, and also there's a lot of tech news to talk about, so let's go. What's up, everybody? This is Dave LeClaire with Make Use of Tech Bytes, and we're here to take a look at the biggest tech news from the last couple of days. And no, my hat is not one of the stories, though let's be real, it's a great hat. So let's jump in, let's look at the news on the count of three. Ready? 1, 2, 3, boom! So in our first story of the day, Google's making some pretty substantial improvements to Chrome on Android. Rather than the cumbersome vertical stack that they used to use on Google Chrome for Android, it is now switching to a grid view, which is more like what the browser on iOS looks like. So now you'll see 6 tabs on the screen instead of one with a bunch piled underneath it. This allows you to see each tab and get an idea of what is there. If you're the type of person that has 70 tabs open at a time, if you have to scroll through them one at a time to get an actual look at the full tab, that's rather cumbersome. So this update makes that a little bit smoother. Additionally, Google is adding tab groups. This is similar to the feature that's available on Chrome for the desktop. And basically you just drag tabs on top of each other and it creates a nice streamlined layout where you can have different tabs set. So you can have your work tabs and your fun tabs and your blah, 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 all your different tabs all smushed together in one spot, and you can kind of keep it more organized. So again, if you're a tab hoarder who tends to have tons of tabs open all the time, this feature will be a game changer for you. Now, it started rolling out already for some users, and it's a server-side update, so you don't really have to do anything to get it. But it's not rolling out for everybody yet. So if you don't see it yet, unfortunately, you're just gonna have to wait. Or you can go to the article in the description where we have a full breakdown of how to enable this feature right now. So if you want to try it out without waiting for it to be updated, you can simply go in, follow those instructions, and boom, you'll have the new features ready to go right now. And if you already have the new feature and you hate it, the article has a way to turn it off. And in a story that should be a surprise to nobody, people really like the Nintendo Switch, and they buy a lot of them. In fact, the Switch has now passed the Nintendo 3DS as the 4th most popular console in Nintendo's history. In total, the console has moved 79.87 million units. That is a lot of consoles sold. Now, this is split between the original Switch and the Switch Lite, but still, they're the same platform overall. They have some minor differences, but it's still the same platform. So that is a lot of units. I mean, we're pushing 80 million at this point, and the console's only been out since 2017. The Switch still has a long way to go until it passes Nintendo's most popular console, which is the original Nintendo DS, which is sitting at around 154 million units sold. But that also had a much longer run. The Switch is only 3.5, 4 years into its run, so it's got a lot more time to make more sales happen. I mean, sometimes they're even still hard to find Switches, so Nintendo might be able to sell more than they currently are if there was more units available. And eventually, there will be, and those people who want them are going to get them. So the moral of the story is, people really like the Switch, and it is super popular. The question going into the future is, though, will Nintendo release a new console anytime soon, or will the Switch remain the company's main platform for another few years? While Xbox and PlayStation both have new consoles out, the Switch has been doing its own thing. It kind of operates in its own space, so it doesn't really follow the traditional generation. So we'll have to wait and see how long Nintendo is going to keep the Switch as its main system. As long as it keeps selling, I see no reason why the company should stop pushing it. Based on the year that was 2020 and what 2021 has been so far, you could say that humanity has some issues to deal with. But according to Tim Cook, one of the biggest issues is privacy. In a recent interview, the CEO of Apple called privacy one of the top issues of the century. Now, obviously, privacy is very important. We all have a lot of data that's available out there, and if any of that data were to get out, it could be catastrophic for people. But Tim Cook actually says that it's on the same level as things like climate change, which, when you think about it, climate change is a huge issue that is affecting the world as a whole. So to put privacy on that same level, its privacy is pretty damn important to a company like Apple, and it probably should be important to all of us as well. Here's the exact quote from Tim Cook. In terms of privacy, I think it's one of the top issues of the century. We've got climate change, that is huge. We've got privacy, that is huge. And they should be weighted like that. And we should put our deep thinking into that and to decide how we can make these things better and how do we leave something for the next generation that is a lot better than the current situation. So lumping those two things together is putting privacy on a pretty serious pedestal. Cook also said that he's a big believer in encryption and end-to-end encryption with no back door. Obviously, he's referring to the standoff that Apple had with the FBI a few years ago where they wanted to get access to data and Apple was like, no, you're not going to have that data. Cook also talked about how monitoring and surveillance could cause a change to the way people behave, and maybe not necessarily for the better. In fact, he even talked about how it could lead to self-censoring, which would not be a good thing for anybody. Here's exactly what he said in the interview. I try to get people to think about what happens in a world where you know that you're being surveilled all the time. What changes do you make in your own behavior? What do you do less of? What do you not do anymore? What are you not as curious about anymore if you know that each time you're on the web looking at different things, exploring different things, you're going to wind up constricting yourself more and more and more and more? That kind of world is not a world that any of us should aspire to. Now, the big question is, do you think that Apple's current privacy situation reflects Cook's opinion? Do you trust Apple with your data? Do you trust Google with your data? Who do you trust with your data? These are some pretty serious questions that we all need to think about. Are you okay with being watched all the time? Do you have a Google Home in your house? Again, these are the big questions. Do you have Nest cameras that are watching you at all times? Do you have an Arlo device? Do you have a Ring doorbell? All these things may be invading your privacy, but the question is, do you care? And it's interesting to hear somebody in Cook's position talk about stuff like this. And I would like to hear you guys talk about it in the comments. So why don't you jump down there and sound off and let me know what you think about privacy. And do you think privacy is on the same level as something like climate change or even the pandemic? Or do you think that it's something that Tim Cook is overhyping and it's not as important as he makes it out to be? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this episode of Make Use of Tech Bytes. It has been a joy to hang out with you. As always, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to do all the other social stuff that makes us happy, which will make you happy, because then we'll make more cool stuff that will make you happier, and it makes a big old circle. So do it now, and we will see you guys in the next episode.